This is Dabu7. One of the biggest concerns that I have for this country, especially if there's a lights out situation or the economy starts to go downhill or there's a breakdown in society, the biggest thing that has my attention are the nuclear plants. Because if they go unchecked, this radiation could devastate the whole country, if not the whole northern hemisphere. All the nuclear plants that are in the United States, if they just let them all melt down, it would be the biggest catastrophe this world has ever seen. It would dwarf Fukushima. It would dwarf anything that happened in Chernobyl. What we have here in this country is a lot of different issues with a lot of different plants. But I have one in particular here that we need to shed some light on because this is very important. Here recently I talked about the Carolinas, how there was an incident there where the radiation is leaking through the floor and has ate a hole in the ground 6 feet deep. Over on the West Coast, we have the Hanford facility, which I've talked about a million times. Just yesterday, they started posting images of a new sinkhole that is forming at that facility. Now, we focus in on this location at San Onofre. This is in San Clemente, California. This is a site that was shut down in 2012 because it was leaking so bad. Because they were operating the reactor outside of the allowable limits for pressure and temperature, causing a radiation leak that forced them to shut down the whole plant. So they just had a big town hall meeting, and some new information has come to light, and this is very important. Because this shows that this area can very much indeed be the next Fukushima here in the United States. The Trump administration knows about it. Of course, like I said, out of sight, out of mind. If the mainstream media is not talking about it, people are not going to be concerned. This is very important. Now look what just happened. This town hall meeting says that on August 3rd, 2018, a 100-ton canister filled with highly radioactive nuclear waste was being downloaded, like via a forklift, down into a temporary transport carrier to be moved a few hundred yards from inside the plant to a storage silo that was buried in this region. They say that this thin-walled canister was being lowered, and it snagged on a guide ledge 4 feet from the top. They're saying that the crane operators were unaware that the canister had stopped, and it got caught on this lip. It took out all the slack in the line, and it had the full weight of this heavy canister perched on a ledge by a 1/4 inch, snagged. They didn't know what was going on for an hour. They said had the ledge not held for that hour, that 1/4 inch holding the whole thing up, this would have fell 18 feet to the floor below and bursted. Each canister reportedly has as much radiation as was released during the Chernobyl disaster. Ladies and gentlemen, just weeks ago, we were 1/4 of an inch away from a Chernobyl type of disaster unfolding at this facility, and it's ongoing. Some people have probably never heard of this plant. You've heard of all the other places I've talked about, but this one has gone under the radar. There's 3.6 million pounds of lethal radioactive waste at this site, and they don't know what to do. So this is what they're doing. They are taking this. The idea is to bury the spent fuel that is on site about 100 feet from the ocean and just a few feet above the water table. Now, this company out down here has already begun transferring the waste from the cooling pools to these canisters and into these locations. But they also discovered a loose bolt on one of the canisters here recently. And some of the other experts says we can't have this. If the smallest bit of air gets inside of there, it's going to make this explosive. Then what do you do when you have canisters exploding that have a level of contamination that was equal to Chernobyl? This is a big concern, and one that just people don't even realize. I'm trying to shed some light on it. This is something we have to pay attention to, folks, here in this country, big time, on what's happening with these nuclear facilities and where things are going. I'm going to leave a link below. I will expand on this as we come across more information. But guys, the next report that I put out could be a disastrous one. I mean, what happens if something like this happens in that region? You're talking about within 100 miles, within 70 miles, huge cities of LA and San Diego, which potentially would have to be evacuated? Are you kidding me? Or would they even? There's not even a plan for that. That's one of the most shocking things here. Not even a plan for it. This is what's going down in SoCal. I'll leave a link. It's been Dabu7. Eyes open.